Welcome back to the latest edition of the Believeland podcast. I'm your host, Cameron Palmer, joined by my illustrious co-host, Derek Dimmitt. How are we doing today?
Doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm excited. It is Wednesday. We are 2 days away from the kickoff. One day if you count tomorrow. Obviously, some schools play
Right.
on Thursdays, but we are nearly ready to get the high school football season underway in full swing. It's been a long journey, but we're back, and just super excited to dive into it for sure. It's gonna be a whole lot of fun, long ride, but a whole lot of fun. Um, so what do you want to start with? The talk about the previews.
Yeah. Before we get going, though, I do want to once again thank Matt Hankins for joining us last week to discuss the Northeast Ohio versus America showdown. That's going this weekend down here in Stark County, Friday night in Massillon, Saturday in Canton. Go ahead and be sure to check that out online if you haven't already. A lot of great matchups. Go back and listen to our previous podcast if you have any questions. Matt did a great job of answering any questions I think anyone could have.
Yeah,
Um, but
definitely. Shout out to him. He did a great
yeah,
job. It was awesome.
yes, he is definitely a very excitable person when it comes to this event, and I'm excited to see how it all turns out. But yeah, let's go ahead and turn our eyes to some of the previews that we've done over at Believeland. You've been extra busy here these past few weeks.
Most
What
certainly.
do you have to say going and looking at some of the teams that you previewed and watched the past couple weeks, Cameron?
So for starters, today I just did NDCL. That preview will be out tonight. All I have to say is their head coach. He has them locked in. They play Riverside on Friday. Obviously, it's a very tough opponent. Um, Especially over the past couple of years, they're the defending WRC champions. And I've heard they're only getting better. So that's just that kind of adds insult to injury for NDCL. But I think they're ready. Their team, they look bought in. They look good. They don't look like a team coming off a 2-8 season. Their quarterback throws good tight spirals. He hits his guys in stride. Their offensive line is solid. They hold their blocks. They communicate well. Their defense is able to extend plays, force the offense to bounce back inside, right into the big meat, the defensive line, which is going to play to their strengths. Definitely not a team. They don't look like a team that's coming off a 2-8 record last year. They just the energy, the atmosphere, and just the overall like how well the practice looked. You'd think they are coming fresh off a state title. You would never have known. It's a new coach and a whole new coaching staff. Only three guys are rolling over from last year, so it's been a learning process for them. But they look bought and it looks like they're ready to go. And I think they have a bright season ahead of them. And I can't wait to visit them a couple of times this year. Their head coach was a phenomenal guy to talk to today. We were talking all day, no matter what drill they were in. I would follow him around like a lost dog, just talking back and forth. He was very appreciative of me coming out and everything. So for sure excited to cover some NDCL games. What teams stood out to you? I got a couple more in mind. I got a lot more in mind, man. Between football and volleyball. So
Yeah, definitely. So I didn't get out to do too many previews this year. Just kind of in limbo with a few things. But I did head up to Streetsboro, and they look like a very strong team this year. They have a rough start to the year, some tough out of conference games. So it'll be interesting to see, how they hit the ground running. Other than that, I went to a North Canton Hoover and Alliance Aviator scrimmage last week. Two very high potent offenses gonna put up a lot of points. So yeah, those are probably the teams that kind of have my eye going into the year. Um, and then of course there's the teams that you previewed and Kevin previewed and even Mike Patterson. He threw out a few previews for us of Believeland too. And if you haven't seen the videos or those articles, be sure to check those out on the Believeland website or on our YouTube page. But yeah, who are some teams other than NDCL that have your eye both on the gridiron and on the volleyball court?
So I'll start with volleyball. It's gonna sound like a broken record, me talking about Chardon and Kinston today, but and it's not even just because they're good programs. It's a matter of just how the coach interacted with me, how excited that they were for me to be out there. Like from top to bottom, between volleyball and football, both head coaches were very receptive to me being there, and they were willing to work with me and send players over during practice to speak with me for a couple of minutes for an interview. And even the players were asking me questions about what I want to do and all that. So definitely just good to be appreciated, showing up all of a sudden like, hey, who's this kid? But they were very appreciative. Kenston has a D1 commit, Riley Rosnick. She's going to Purdue Fort Wayne. She just committed a couple weeks ago. And then Chardon has a commit as well. Emma McCartney, she's going to Northern Illinois, which is a top volleyball program in college. So congrats to both of them on committing D1 for volleyball. Just when your team is highlighted by a couple of college commits, it's hard not to keep your eyes on them and be like, hey, maybe this team is gonna push for something. Two good teams in the WRC teams are looking to most definitely win their conference, and for no doubt try and make a run for states. I know Chardon really, really is. Where I was doing the interview in the coach's office, they had this whiteboard, and just like a good half of it was just filled with this long list of goals. And I mean, I'm not sure how locked in volleyball teams are. I know what it's like on the gridiron, but I'm not familiar with volleyball. But I'm learning as the more I do, definitely look like it seems like the message is let's go win states. Um, so definitely keep your eye on those two teams. I will be around there a lot this year. And so as far as football goes, Kenston obviously, they got Sean Patrick. He's coming back. Over 1,500 yards last year on the ground. 21 touchdowns. I think 20 total touchdowns between rushing and through the air, which is just it's absurd. That's a crazy number to hit. He committed to Akron, so he's gonna join his quarterback from last year, Nico Georgia, who we interviewed previously for the baseball championship. Chardon, they have a new starting quarterback. Will Francis is making a position change to be the quarterback. I covered their scrimmage against Menor last week, and for a kid now being quarterback this for the first year as a junior, looked like he's ready to take that step and push his team to that next level and just bring Chardon another state title. They won one in 2020 and 2021. I think they're poised to make another deep run at it. They came close last year. Just don't take your eyes off of them for sure. And then lastly, Hawk and I visited earlier this week. They are making so they're still in the CVC. They're just making a division change. They're going from the Valley Division to the Chagrin Division. So different opponents. I think their coach said they have 8 new opponents that they have not faced in the past couple of years. So it's going to be a challenge. Their starting quarterback from last year is making a position change due to injury, and then they're now having a sophomore start at quarterback. So it's going to be a challenge, and I know that their coach has them locked in, and they're no doubt a team to watch, especially coming out of the CVC. Just good athletes all around. They're very disciplined. They work hard, and they're very friendly as well. Some of the offensive linemen were waving at me during when I was around taking videos of practice. So just a lot of good atmospheres I've been around. So that's a really big part of what I enjoyed about doing these previews and everything. So I'll just definitely keep your eyes peeled for all these matchups. You'll see me around a lot. I'm definitely excited to visit some of these teams that I've seen in previews and just keep building these relationships that are already off to a very strong start, which is always a good sign, especially being young into this. So That's really all I got as far as previews. Cardinal looks pretty good. And I obviously I did just graduate from Cardinal, but this is not a bandwagon moment. They scrimmaged Orange. I covered that one, and then I watched their scrimmage against Western Reserve as a fan. And all things considered, Western Reserve some good competition. They got some size on the offensive and defensive line, and I think that might be Cardinals' biggest question mark is the offensive line. So I think they held their own. They didn't look horrible. They did end up winning the scrimmage, 14-0, aided by a pick six. But regardless, winning is winning, and I think they're definitely going to give Garrettsville a run for their money this year. We did last year. I'll dive into that more as we talk about the games. So I'm gonna sway us into that. Kind of ranted for a little bit, but it was just it's a great opportunity and it was great atmosphere. It was a lot of fun. Met some cool people, and they were very thankful for me doing what I do. So, um, anything else you got to add?
No, no, those were great answers. And it definitely seems like the teams that have that kind of loose atmosphere are the ones that are the
Yeah,
winning
yeah.
teams. And sometimes I think no matter the level, coaches kind of get this thought like business, business, business. But at the end of the day, it's a game. And those that keep that in mind and, still run a strict practice, but kind of have that looseness about it, I think those are the teams that, are playing into November. And you mentioned some teams that are in November for football year in and year out, no matter who they lose to graduation or if the kids transfer. So it's clearly the system, and it's good to hear that the systems are working and that it isn't all, you know, nose to the grindstone and, work, work, work. There's still some looseness and play there. But without further ado, we got a big weekend coming up here with Believeland and our high school coverage. We're covering 8 football games beginning tomorrow night, running through Saturday night. Um, so to get us started, which game will you be covering this weekend, Cameron?
So I kind of made a promise with somebody who got me in with Believeland. I owe him this one, so I'm gonna be covering Garfield at Cardinal with the background here. Um, Last year we visited Garfield as the visitor, and it was we had a good week of practice leading up to it. I think things didn't go quite our way. We kind of held our own, but it slipped away in the second half a little bit. The Huskies haven't beat them since 2014, so it's been nearly a decade. And I think Chris Priddy has his team set, ready to go to take that next step and to finally not let that second half get to them and to take that step, get over that hump that is Garfield and snap the losing streak. And it'll be a joyous night at Richard A. Moss if the Huskies come out on top. I'm excited. A lot of the skill position players been putting in a lot of work with the JEA Academy this offseason, getting better. Just it's been it's it's been a long time, but they're definitely poised to get over the hump, and they're also coming off 2 straight years of playoff berths, going 7-3 in 2021, and then 5-5 last year. Losing to Cuyahoga Heights last year, and then we lost to Hillsdale in 2021. But Cardinals taking the right steps. They're going in the right direction. They're young. They're graduating 11 seniors, but they have a lot of guys who are juniors and sophomores that are taking big steps and filling roles that have been left by last year's seniors and the year before that to play for the team. Some guys making position changes, just doing what they can to help the team. A lot of guys are putting themselves aside and doing what's best for the team, and that's always good to hear, especially being a small program. Um, it's definitely it's definitely been a it's definitely going to be a good game to watch. So I'm excited. Um, yeah, that's really all I got. As far as my week one goes, like you said, we have some more games to talk about. So let's dive more into these, man. It's gonna be a long weekend.
Yeah, and the one that's gonna have the longest weekend, I think, out of all of us is the godfather of Believeland, Papa
Yeah,
Kev. He's pulling
yeah,
dou he's pulling double duty this week. Starting tomorrow, he'll be out at Ravenna as they take on Kent Roosevelt. Um, and then Friday, he'll be at Crestwood as they welcome Rootstown to open the season. As for the Kent Ravenna matchup, it's the 109th meeting in their crosstown rivalry of sorts. The Ravens lead all time 54, 51 and 3. Ravenna does have a new quarterback, Bobby Melzer. He's a 6'4" kid, very big. He was actually their tight end last year, but coach is moving him over into the quarterback, hoping that that height comes in handy, seeing over the line, maybe being able to pick apart some defenses. And they do have the 1-2 punch of Daniel Sanders and Austin Marshall in the backfield. Kent features a young team, but they're hungry and looking to improve on last year's 3-7 mark. So that's the Thursday night game that Kevin is covering, and you got some notes on the Friday night game.
yeah. So Ridgetown is looking to replace star Cody Koontz, which looking at these stats, rushing for over 2,300 yards and 30 touchdowns with a few talented backs. Those are hard numbers to replace. The entire offensive line is back. Crestwood is looking to improve after playing a lot of sophomores last year. Their quarterback, I know, Charlie Sommer, he was a sophomore last year. I remember watching film on him in and out throughout the season. Running back Nate Belhazioli is their key offensive player. And Derek, you're covering Menor and Jackson, the Menor Cardinals, the Jackson Polar Bears this weekend.
Yes, yes, I'm covering that game. Actually, just got off a phone call, talked to Coach Gray from Menor and Coach Rohr from Jackson. Should be a very interesting game. Two teams that are relatively young in the grand scheme of things. Both have underclassmen at quarterback. Well, I guess Menor's is a junior, so I don't think that classifies anymore as
No,
underclassmen,
nope.
but still a young team. Normally programs like that are playoff contenders year in and year out are typically led by seniors, but a lot of sophomores and juniors that these coaches are going to be counting on. So it should be a great game. Mentor probably has an upper hand looking at it on paper, but as you know, and as everyone listening knows, once that ball gets teed up and it's kicked off and the score is 0-0 at the start, anything can happen in between those white lines. So should be a great game. And that it doesn't stop there. We also have Mike Patterson, one of our writers here. He'll be covering a game. And what do you have to say about that, Cameron?
Um, Not much really. I think I have another Villa St. Angelo's St. Joe's game later on this year. They're playing John Hay in Week 1, and then Marshawn Powers and James Ellerfritz, host of the Guardians of the CLE podcast. Shout out James. They're going to be in Massillon for the Valdosta Massillon matchup as part of the NEO versus America showcase, which is going to be just a treat. Hopefully, I'm reserving my spot for next year. I would be honored to take care of that for you guys because that it's just everywhere you look up and down the games, it's like historic or just two powerhouses going at it for an hour. Just some great matchups. You guys are going to be in for a treat, and I'll definitely be sure to dive into the articles and get soak in all the knowledge from these games. It's gonna be a lot of fun. I know you guys are gonna take care of business as usual. Um, and then Saturday, it's a triple header for Believeland. I know you and Marshawn are going to be taking care of those three games in the showcase. Tell us about it.
Yeah, it all gets kicked off at noon from Tom Benson Stadium on the campus of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. St. Edward's at Lakewood, facing off with the Center Grove Trojans, and following that one, about 45 minutes after that one wraps up, it's Akron Hoban going up against Frederick Douglass, and then the nightcap is the Tar Blooders of Glenville going up against Dinwiddie. So that will be a full day and a lot of great matchups with talent that's either already committed to D1 schools or has a slew of D1 schools knocking on their doors. So definitely looking forward to watching the talent that will be on display that game, uh, or that day rather, throughout those three games. And as for you, Cameron, you have yourself a full day come Saturday as well.
Yes, Saturday I will be covering my first volleyball match as a reporter. I'm very excited. A couple schools that I visited for previews: Cardinal and West Geauga, along with Garfield. They have a try match starting at 9 a.m. at West Geauga. I'm very excited for this. I've learned a lot about volleyball over the past couple of weeks, just trying to make sure that I'm saying the right things and I'm getting the stats right. And the West Geauga girls they were a lot of fun to preview. I had covered a scrimmage that they had against Berkshire the day I did the football season preview for Berkshire. I went inside and covered the scrimmage, and they saw me and they were like, "Oh, hey, it's Cameron." Their coach is very cool, Coach Baker. I'm very excited to see them again, and I'm excited for some good volleyball. I think Cardinals a very young team. They're they're looking to kind of have a bounce back year as far as West Geauga goes. They're senior heavy ish. They have a junior taking up coming in to fill some shoes left behind. I think a sophomore and freshman as well on the varsity roster who are going to be just key pieces all around. I think it'll be a good couple hours worth of volleyball. I'm excited. I hope it goes well. I'm excited to bring you guys all the coverage for sure. It's a new chapter. It's a whole new game. It's not football. It's not basketball. It's not baseball. It's not softball. It's a learning curve, but if I talk about the football teams being very receptive, if anyone's more receptive, it's definitely the volleyball teams, as they don't get all the coverage that they deserve. They all work very hard. They're all committed to their programs, and their coaches are all aiming for the same goal. Just definitely, it's gonna be fun. Good games. Two conference-ish teams playing, CVC, West Geauga, and Cardinal. So there will be an initial CVC game for the Huskies and the Wolverines as well. Garfield is in the MAC, so they do not play a conference game that day. But just excited to get football kicked off on Friday for Kevin tomorrow night, and get volleyball kicked off with a triple header in a way on Saturday. Next week I'll be packed full with volleyball, probably Monday through Thursday, and I'll be under the lights once again. So we have some good games next week for sure. Can't wait to dive into those next week with you guys. So you got anything else that you want to add before we wrap it up?
No, no, just thank you once again for listening, everyone, to the Believeland Prep Podcast. Be sure to follow Believeland on all of your social media platforms to get the most up to date information on the games that we talked about tonight and throughout this season. Cameron does a great job of sending out video clips of the games as they're going on. I'm going to try to get a little better at doing that. But yes, be sure to follow Believeland, and for the latest for Believeland Prep Podcast, go ahead and be sure to like and subscribe to us on your podcast platform or to the Believeland Media YouTube page. We got a lot of great things coming up, and we're excited to bring you a weekly episode, week in and week out. We'll be recapping the games that Believeland covers from the week prior, while also previewing where we'll be that following weekend. So, once again, thank you for listening and have a great day.